Welcome back, delegates. Congress, the STUC has a new affiliate. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Royal College of Midwives to the STUC.
So happy that Robert was
The Royal College of Midwives is the first Royal College to affiliate to the STUC, and they represent around 3,000 members in Scotland. The RCM is a professional organisation and trade union dedicated to serving midwifery and the whole midwifery team. Their affiliation to the STUC is a welcome addition to the body of health professionals already playing an active role within our movement. I am pleased to be able to welcome representatives, which we've already done. They're over on the right-hand side as we look, to Congress for the first time. They are here as observers, but the RCM will obviously, of course, be able to send a full delegation to Congress in 2017. Workers in Scotland are stronger when they stand together, and it is therefore a great privilege to welcome our newest affiliate, and we look forward to the contribution that they can make to our debates and our work here in Scotland. Thank you. Delegates, can you please take your seats? Please sit down. We'll now have a presentation on the STUC Union Reps Awards, and Graham will do the introductions. Thank you.
Thanks very much, President. Congress, I'm delighted to announce the recipients of this year's STUC Union Rep Awards. As you know, we introduced these awards to recognise the magnificent work that's done by thousands of workplace union reps across the country. In a departure from previous years, we will present all 4 awards in this one session rather than in 4 separate sessions spread throughout the week. And that has the advantage, of course, of 3 fewer speeches from me, but also means that we can take the opportunity of the First Minister's attendance at Congress to have her present all 4 awards. The Congress, as you know, today the Trade Union Bill returns to Westminster for further debate in the House of Lords, and as the noble Lords rally against this vindictive and nasty piece of legislation, I think it's very significant that we have our First Minister at our Congress as we recognise the work of workplace union reps, who are the very epitome of the reason why we've developed a very different approach to unions and industrial relations here in Scotland. And it's an approach we are absolutely determined to retain whatever happens at Westminster. Everything our reps deliver, safer, healthier workplaces, more workplace equality, better skills and training opportunities and increased union membership, is everything the Tories despise and are determined to obstruct. Now, our reps use their facility time, which the UK Government wants to take away, to deliver fairer work and more productive workplaces. The UK Government wants unions spending more time wrapped up in red tape, and we want unions spending more time developing and supporting workplace reps to enable them to do all the things their members need. So before I invite the First Minister to present each of the awards, we will see a short film that features each of this year's recipients.
My name is Julie Atkinson, and I work at Aegon in Edinburgh. I've been working here since 1998, and I've been a union member since I started at Aegon. I think it's really important for people to take part in union learning opportunities and training courses to be able to develop themselves. Scottish Union Learning funds an excellent range of courses, and people in ages have been able to benefit from several of these. The Modern Apprenticeship programme started 3 years ago, so this was really quite innovative for something in for the financial services industry to take part in. So the company were fully supportive, and we introduced it as a pilot with just a small number of apprentices. We actually then ran a mentoring programme to be able to support the modern apprentices, so if they had any problems they could come to myself or one of the other union learning reps.
Aegis, the union and Aegon work well together to actually get the most out of the opportunities that the Union Learning Project brings. Well, we're all really proud of Julie and what she's done in the workplace. The commitment and effort she's put into her role, her union learning role, has just had a massive impact in terms of the culture of the organisation. Personally, I've really enjoyed seeing her grow and develop in confidence to the point that she's now supporting other people, mentoring the apprenticeships.
So Julie spent a lot of time running drop-in sessions for staff to explain all about the Union Learning project and how some of the courses could be funded, but they could do some courses online. And the first session she ran, 2 people went to. The session she runs now, people book spaces and there's a waiting list for them. so for that, I mean, she inspires me.
My name is Scott Donohoe. I've been Branch Health and Safety Officer with the Unison Glasgow City branch for about 14 years. Our membership base within the branch is just over 11,000, mainly in local authority, Glasgow City Council. The situation with the SECC complex is owned 91% by Glasgow City Council. There was a gas leak at the complex in November 2013. The evacuation was shambolic. The fire service were called in to look at it. And from that, we then recruited a couple of members as trade union safety reps. The reps on the ground were continuing to raise safety issues, which they done very well, very effectively. And through that, we recruited some more members to the SECC. Stress, mental health and overwork have increased massively over the last 3, 4, 5 years. A lot of that, in our view, is down to obviously the public sector budget cuts. Staff are leaving public services, they're not being replaced, but the services still need to be delivered. So the staff there have to carry the brunt or the extra workload. I mean, within our branch, we started a campaign about 3 years ago about saying no to overwork and basically saying, no, enough's enough. We produced campaign materials, sent it out to the members. We also run training courses and the workplace stress awareness. And the campaign's still ongoing because the cuts are still ongoing.
My name's Scott Mowat. I'm a principal teacher in a Glasgow primary school and I've been a member of the EIS since 2010, and each year I've been doing more and more activism within the union. I started working with the union about 2011 where I became interested in an LGBT network that was going on. It started off with just myself and one other union member, and then from there I was taking on more and more union duties to the point where I became part of Glasgow Local Association's Committee of Management, and then from there I became an EIS Equality Rep and started going to the EIS AGM. I've been going there each year since 2013, just taking on more and more responsibility within the union. Since being at university, I studied homophobia in primary school, and it was something I was always interested in and realised that it was a problem in primary schools. As a student teacher, I experienced homophobia really for the first time in my life from a teacher that I worked with, and that was very surprising and something I wasn't expecting. That was when I realised that homophobia was real and it did happen in primary schools, even though I was finding it from my research. Since taking on this role within the union, I've realised that it is still very prevalent in schools and it's something that needs to be tackled. The union has taken me through a lot of training along with Stonewall and LGBT youth, and they've asked me to go and represent schools at Stonewall and LGBT youth events. Very fortunate to attend the past 3 STUC LGBT conferences where we've been backing other unions and they've been backing us, and we've worked collaboratively with them to ensure that our motions can be supported across all unions and we're getting the best for all of our workers.
My name is Fiona Stewart. I am a research fellow in the Institute of Applied Health Sciences, and I've been a UCU member for about 6 years. For helping out members, we've got a really good committee structure. They represent academics, researchers, academic related staff, and a lot of them are also caseworkers, so they're helping out individual members with problems they're having. When people realise how much input the union has, they're prepared to join and to take some action.
The University of Aberdeen senior management suddenly sprang, or attempted to spring, a really quite large scale redundancy on us all Now, mercifully, the university court stalled them and said, you haven't really made a good case. We also had a number of ballots for members when it became clear the management weren't going to let off on redundancies. And the way it's worked in Aberdeen is by showing a willingness to take action, we've made the management generally go back and rethink. So, in a way, some of the unfortunate financial and workplace conditions we've faced over the last year have also helped us. It's meant that we've worked very well with the student union, and I'd like to pay tribute to the student union and indeed the other campus trade unions, Unite, Unison, for their support. They were out supporting our petitions, out giving us support and letters to court. So it's helped produce a sense that there's also unions on the campus as much as UCU itself.
Congress, the recipient of the 2016 STUC Helen Dowie Award for Lifelong Learning, Julie Atkinson of Aegis the Union.
Thank you very much. Thank you, First Minister, for presenting this beautiful award, and many thanks to Graham Smith and Scottish Union Learning for their continued support for the Aegis Union Learning project. I'm truly honoured to be here today and so pleased to have won the Helen Dowie Award for Lifelong Learning. Receiving this award is such an amazing compliment. I was delighted to be nominated for this award. I never thought I would win, so I was really proud of my nomination alone and feel very privileged. First of all, I would like to thank everyone at Aegis who has supported and encouraged me in my Union Learning representative role. In particular, my project manager, Maria Clark, and all of my fellow Union Learning representatives. We make such a great team and support each other completely. It is a pleasure to carry out Union Learning duties when I'm able to see the positive results throughout the workplace. Learning brings so many benefits to staff, such as confidence building, improving morale in the workplace, and increased job skills. So I would also like to thank Aegon for being fully behind Union Learning. As an employer, they have recognised the benefits to staff, and this helps the good relationship between Aegis and Aegon, which is so important to the benefit of everyone in the workplace. Finally, I would like to thank all at Scottish Union Learning for the opportunity to take part in something so worthwhile. It has been a wonderful experience for me, and everyone is so enthusiastic. I find that once people start on their first learning course, they're eager to keep on learning more and more. I very much look forward to continuing working as a Union Learning representative and watching people's accomplishments grow and grow. This award, and all the recognition that goes with it, has really encouraged me and given me greater motivation to do the best I possibly can for Aegis Union Learning and all the learners with whom I work. Thank you all once again.
Congratulations, Julie, and our thanks to Skills Development Scotland for sponsoring the Helen Dowie Award. Congress, the recipient of the 2016 Frank Maguire Award for Health and Safety, Scott Donohoe of Unison.
Hello, thank you, First Minister. I would want to thank the STUC for the award and thank my union, Unison, for everything they've done for me throughout the years, and also to thank many friends and comrades that are in the room today. Congress, it's a great honour to receive this award. The late Frank Maguire, who was a legal colossus, in my view, fought so passionately for asbestos victims and their families, and also campaigned for all employers to provide safe and healthy workplaces for all workers. As we meet in the great city of Dundee, where in the backdrop, as Graham alluded to earlier, of the anti-trade union bill, this is a battle we must not lose. Must not lose. I think the Scottish Government and the Welsh Governments have actually played a key role in helping to fight this off. So, all credit to them. We also need to ensure they're actually trying to liquidate the trade unions, as somebody said a couple of weeks ago. They're trying to destroy us. So, I think I'm very proud of what the union movement has done in fighting this horrendous piece of legislation, and I think we'll win it. So, I'm also proud to be involved in establishing the Scottish Hazards Centre to help bad employers who put workers' lives at risk, to create better health and safety management systems. Ultimately, we getting non-unionised workers into trade unions, do what we do best: organise, educate, agitate. So, just want to say thanks very much. I'm very proud to be part of the movement. Thanks.
Congratulations, Scott, and our thanks to Thomson Solicitors for sponsoring the Frank Maguire Award. Congress, the recipient of the 2016 STUC Equality Award, Scott Mow of the EIS.
Good morning, Congress. Firstly, I'd like to thank the STUC for my award, my head teacher for allowing me the time out to attend lots of events like this, but more importantly, Pam Curry and Andrea Bradley from the EIS for my nomination and support along the way to get on this journey to where I am now. Equality is at the heart of all my work. I've been very, very privileged to work in schools where children come from the toughest backgrounds in Scotland, ranking highly in the Multiple Deprivation Index. Ensuring that the children in schools, and these schools in particular, were given the same chances and opportunities to achieve in life was my utmost main priority. It's also my main priority that LGBT young people and young people in LGBT families are given the exact same chances, and that by teaching about LGBT life and issues at a young age, they come to realise that being gay is okay, as one of my primary 7 said last year. The route to all change is education. Currently, we do not teach about LGBT relationships, and some schools have the right to fully opt out of this, and not just LGBT education, any relationship education, but there's no equality in that for those children. Teachers need training, then all of our pupils need to be taught. Most teachers have had no training on dealing with LGBT issues, which is not good enough. I believe that teachers want to teach and tackle LGBT phobia in the staff room and in the classroom, but they're not sure how to. If I was asked to teach German tomorrow, I'd definitely be asking for some training. The same goes for asking teachers to teach about LGBT issues. There is some excellent work going on out there from LGBT Youth Scotland, Stonewall Scotland, who have provided me with a lot of training, and TIE, Time for Inclusive Education, who have been campaigning to put an end to LGBT phobias in our Scottish schools. The EIS is working tirelessly through the introduction of our LGBT network, the Equality Committee and our new Equality Reps, ensuring that we are getting it right for all our members on all equality matters. It is my belief that if we have happy teachers, then we have happy wee people in our classrooms. As a Trade Union Congress, it is now our time to start making the deep-rooted changes required, and I hope that any motions regarding LGBT issues are passed today. And it's now time to ensure that the next government does get it right for our future LGBT generation. They deserve it. Thank you.
Congratulations, Scott. Congress, the recipient of the 2016 STUC Organising Award, the UCU Aberdeen University branch, and to receive the award, the branch president, Rachel Shanks.
helps if I get it the right way round. Comrades, First Minister, unfortunately my colleagues Fiona Stewart and Andrew McKillop, who you saw in the video, aren't able to be here today, so in true Oscars fashion I'm here on their behalf, and this is probably the closest I'm ever going to get to giving an Oscars speech, so here goes. I'm not going to thank my family, don't worry, but I am going to thank a whole lot of other people. So I'm the past president of the Aberdeen University and College Union branch, and I would not be here today receiving the award on behalf of our branch if it weren't for the UCU staff in Scotland. So I'd like to thank Susan Melvin, don't worry, I'm going to go through them all. Susan Melvin, our Aberdeen University branch organiser, our UCU Scottish National Officers, Mary Senior, Murdo Matheson, Louise McGurk and Claire Johnston. And I'd also like to thank former UCU staff, Deborah Shepherd, James Rose and Sue Bateman, who was our former branch administrator and organiser. And I'd like to thank my branch, nervous, and I'm a lecturer, there we go. Everyone else did really well, and it's not their full-time job. I'd like to thank my branch committee comrades, Fiona Stewart, Mike McConnell, Andrew McKillop, Andrew McGregor, Mike Wolfendale and Miep Helfrich. I could obviously thank the University of Aberdeen senior management because they've helped us to recruit an awful lot of members last year. But I don't really want to thank them for anything. And of course, I want to thank all the Aberdeen University UCU members who've joined the branch in the last year, who've stayed in the branch, who've been active, who've voted in our ballots for industrial action last year, which our current branch president mentioned. And obviously, I'd like to thank the STUC for recognising our hard work in Aberdeen. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel, and thanks to Thomson Solicitors again for sponsoring that award. And if I can ask all the award winners to come forward, and Nicola, if you would get a group photograph.
Congress, it's now my pleasure to introduce the First Minister. For most of you, the First Minister needs no introduction. Nicola Sturgeon is many things: a native of Ayrshire, a graduate of Glasgow University, a lawyer, a member of the Scottish Parliament since it was re-established in 1999, an opposition spokesperson, a Cabinet Secretary, the Deputy First Minister, and since November last year, the leader of the Scottish Nationalist Party and the First Minister of Scotland. The Daily Telegraph described her as the most dangerous woman in politics. First Minister, would you please address Congress?
Thanks very much for that reminder of what it was actually the Daily Mail, and it's the nicest thing they've ever said about me, so I was quite grateful for it. Thank you very much indeed for that introduction. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be here today to address Congress. Can I begin by congratulating again all of the award winners today. It's always really inspiring to hear of the work led by trade union members right across our country. Of course, last year was the first time I had the privilege of addressing you as First Minister and of presenting those awards at that time. So on a personal level today, I want to take the opportunity of saying a very sincere thank you for the very positive, constructive role that all of Scotland's trade unions have shown in your dealings with the Scottish Government. You have been both critical friends and constructive allies, and I want to tell you today that I value both of those roles. As First Minister, it's been a privilege to work alongside not just Graham and his team, but all of Scotland's unions to help make Scotland a stronger, a fairer and a better country. It is quite hard to believe, actually, that a year has passed since you last met and I last addressed you at Ayr Racecourse on the eve of a general election that produced truly seismic shifts in UK politics. And this year, of course, I address you once again in the run-up to an election that is just as important as last year's was. In fact, I don't think it's any exaggeration to say that this is the most important Scottish election since the Scottish Parliament was first established in 1999. And that's because, as Graham has reminded us, the Scottish Parliament is about to have significant new responsibilities, new powers and responsibilities that Scotland's trade union movement played a key role in securing. So all of us have a duty to make sure that these powers are put to good use for all of the people of our country. Now, I'm going to talk a wee bit more about the SNP's ambitions and aspirations for the months and years ahead in a moment. But first, I do think it's worth reflecting on the past 12 months. At a UK level, we face a completely different political landscape, a majority Tory government pushing through some of the most right-wing policies that we have seen in decades. However, there is also now a large block of SNP MPs who are resolutely opposed to that Tory government, and working in partnership with other progressive parties, with trade unions and with civic society, we have shown over these past 12 months that the Tories are not invincible. The Tories can be defeated. On a range of issues, from the scrapping of the Human Rights Act to cutting tax credits for working families and cuts to disability benefits, a concerted chorus of opposition has forced David Cameron's government into retreat. And the more time goes on, and particularly as the Tories become increasingly divided over the issue of Europe, that majority that David Cameron has in the House of Commons looks increasingly fragile. So the opposition at Westminster must unite to exploit that fragility at every single opportunity. We must maximise pressure on the Tory government to rethink and retreat from their austerity politics and austerity economics. You know, new powers for our Parliament do give us the opportunities that we have not had before to mitigate Tory austerity. But we mustn't, in my view, become so caught up in a debate about how to mitigate Tory austerity that we forget to fight Tory austerity at source. These cuts are unnecessary, they are ideological, and all of us must unite to oppose them at every single turn. So you have my commitment today that the SNP, both in Westminster and in the Scottish Parliament, will continue to stand up to this Tory government at every opportunity. And while the UK government views trade unions as opponents, the Scottish Government views you as partners, as essential partners in everything that we do. And I believe we have evidenced over the past few years that that partnership we have in Scotland leads to much better outcomes for all of us. You know, when Ferguson's shipyard was threatened with closure, many people thought it had little chance of survival. But we set up a task force with trade unions playing a pivotal role. And 2 years on, Ferguson's hasn't just survived, it's now winning orders, including public contracts, and there are plans for the workforce to increase tenfold. And more recently, another task force, the Scottish Steel Task Force, was set up when Tata announced the mothballing of the steel plants at DL and Clydebridge. And together, we did what many people thought was impossible. We found a buyer for those steel plants, and today I am proud to say that those steel plants now have the prospect of a bright future. And today I would also send good wishes to steel workers all over the UK whose future is bleak, and hope that the UK Government and the Welsh Government also finds a way to save Port Talbot, just as we found a way to secure the future of the steel plants here in Scotland. Throughout that process, we worked closely with Community Union, and I want today to put on record my thanks to Community Union for all the support and input they give us. In other areas, of course, we continue to face challenges. In the oil and gas sector, the input of unions on the Energy Job Task Force has been vital, and I'm pleased that we've been able to create a forum where employers and employees can discuss their concerns and find ways to work together safely to secure the future of our North Sea industry. So all of our experience shows that when government, when industry and when trade unions work together, we can achieve better results. And that approach couldn't be more different to the approach taken by the Tories. There is no starker reminder of the contempt in which the Tory government holds the trade union movement than the anti-trade union bill that goes back into Westminster today. Now, I know that the SNP and the STUC won't always agree on everything. I recognise that, and that's healthy in a democracy. But I will always value a strong, vibrant trade union movement that challenges government to do more and to do it better. So I pledge to you today that the SNP, if we are re-elected to government, will continue to work with unions against this anti-trade union bill. We will do everything we can to disrupt the bill. We will do everything in our power to block the bill. And if the bill is passed, I say to you today that an SNP Scottish Government will not implement or comply with the trade union bill. It would be totally unacceptable if the ability of the Scottish Government to work constructively with our trade union partners was curtailed by the ideology of the Tories, and we will not allow that to happen. But we won't just argue for Scotland to be exempted from the bill, we'll oppose it across the whole of the UK. And if we are returned to government next month, I also want to make clear that we will do more than just oppose anti-trade union legislation. We will also take every possible step to support trade unions, to continue to do the job that you do so well and to properly represent your members. We want to discuss options with the STUC, including the option of setting up a new dedicated fund to support trade union modernisation, to enhance trade union work and to retain and further build on the role of trade unions in our public life. Nobody can stand here and pledge to undo all of the damage that the Tories are doing. But I can promise you that the SNP and an SNP government will stand foursquare with you in opposition to this bill. But more than that, we'll stand full square with you in a positive affirmation of the importance of workers' rights in any progressive and democratic society. And if we are re-elected when it comes to protecting workers' rights, there's one further action we will take. We will continue to argue for Scotland and the UK to remain members of the EU. I know that the EU is not perfect, far from it. There's much we would and should change. But the protections it offers from an unfettered Tory government, I think, are essential. So we'll campaign strongly to retain our membership of the EU, and I hope we'll have the support of the STUC in doing so. And before I turn to this election, there's one further area where we will continue to challenge this Tory government and where I hope we will continue to have your support. My opposition to Trident is not some party political game. It's something I've believed in all of my adult life. For me, Trident is morally wrong. But I also recognise that for some people, the nuclear base at Faslane is where they work, it's where they earn a living, and that the abolition of Trident must be matched by a programme of diversification and alternative employment. Alongside the moral argument, of course, is a more practical financial one. Renewing Trident would cost £167 billion over its lifetime. That is, in my view, an obscenely and unacceptably high cost. It's money that could and should be available for genuine priorities, for health, for education, for conventional defences. That's the position the Scottish Parliament supported last November, and it's a position that I will advocate throughout the next Parliament too. Turning now, though, to the election that lies ahead of us. It is, as I have said, a vitally important election. In Graham's election message yesterday, he issued a timely reminder to all parties to use our new powers not for short-term gain, but to tackle the long-term challenges we face in Scotland. And I could not agree with that more. None of us argued for new powers to use them in search of a single day's headlines. We argued for them so that we could address the poverty and the worklessness that has blighted some of our communities for far too long. Tomorrow I'll publish the SNP's election manifesto. It will set out an ambitious, transforming and reforming plan for government. It will set out how we will deliver fair tax through an approach that doesn't ask low-income workers to pay for Tory austerity, but does expect those on higher incomes to shoulder more of the burden. It will set out how we will tackle the poverty that affects too many of our children from the day they are born. It will set out how we will improve attainment, support people into work and provide those who can't work or people who have retired with the dignity and respect that they are entitled to. We'll publish a Fairer Scotland action plan, bringing together all of our actions to tackle poverty and inequality. The action plan will be informed by the recommendations of the Poverty Advisor, which we will accept in full, and of the Fair Work Convention, where trade unions have played such a vital part. Our focus will be on tackling the root causes of poverty and deprivation, not just on mitigating the cuts imposed by Westminster. It will mean transformational childcare, investing in and reforming our health service and investing in housing and communities. We also recognise that while government has the responsibility to lead and drive change, eradicating poverty can't be done by government alone. We need to harness the efforts of all parts of our society. That is why, as soon as we have the powers to do so, we will commence the socio-economic duty contained in the 2010 Equalities Act, so that all public bodies have to evaluate all of their policies against the duty to reduce inequalities. We'll also reappoint an independent advisor on poverty and establish a Poverty and Inequality Commission to provide expert advice to government on how to better tackle poverty and monitor progress in doing so. But I particularly want to mention today how we'll use our new powers in relation to social security and employability. We already, as you know, mitigate the bedroom tax, and as soon as we have the powers to do so, we will abolish the bedroom tax completely, because it should never, ever have been on the statute book in the first place. We'll also take a different approach to employability. The Tory government's work and work choice programmes have failed unemployed and disabled people. The drive to extract private profit from providing skills and opportunities for work has distorted the programmes, as has the decision to cut funding for employment support services, which means that the money to be transferred to Scotland alongside these new powers will be 90% less than it should be. In fact, it's likely that the Tories will transfer just £7 million to Scotland to support these services instead of the £54 million that was spent on them when the decision was taken to devolve them. But we will not allow those who need help to get into work to pay the price of the UK Government's cuts and bad decisions. We'll invest an additional £20 million every year to ensure that those who need to be supported into employment get that support. The Tories' mishandling of employability over recent years has been damning, but it's been nowhere near as damning as their approach to disability benefits and disability assessments. At all times, the Tories' guiding principle is only how they can save money, and do so on the backs of the most vulnerable. With the new powers coming to our Parliament, we can and we will take a different course. Let me be clear that under an SNP government there will be no DWP target-led assessments of those in need of disability benefits. Earlier this year we announced the creation of a new Scottish Social Security Agency. Its ethos will be very different to that pursued by the UK Government. It will not be guided by the principles of sanctions and punishment, but by the principles of dignity and respect. When the manifesto that we publish tomorrow is out there, you'll see several clear pledges. There will be a commitment to clear timescales for assessments and decisions, a transparent appeals process and a commitment to no means testing for disability benefits. We'll introduce long-term awards for existing long-term conditions that are unlikely to change, ensure that people get the right level of award without all of the stress and anxiety that they have to suffer right now. In short, in Scotland, we will show there is a different way and a better way, a fairer way than the one pursued by the Tories at Westminster. Our social security system and our approach to fair work are a key part of our belief that a competitive economy is also an inclusive economy. The STUC has been at the heart of the development of the fair work agenda in Scotland. And in the next term, with your support, I believe we can and we will take a real leap forward in fair work practices. We will continue to do everything we possibly can to ensure that public procurement supports good workplace practices and that companies that engage in unacceptable workplace practices like blacklisting, exploitative use of zero-hours contracts or tax evasion do not benefit from public procurement. In our first 100 days, we will bring forward a new labour market strategy informed by the work of the Independent Fair Work Convention. And a key part of that strategy will be to continue our work in rolling out the living wage. A higher proportion of the workforce in Scotland are already paid the living wage, the real living wage, not George Osborne's pretend one, than any other nation in the UK. From October this year, the living wage will be paid to social care workers as well, and I can think of no workforce that better deserves a decent wage than those who care for our most vulnerable. But we must go further, and we will. Our manifesto will set a new target of doubling to 1,000 the number of accredited living wage employers by the autumn of next year. Improving low pay will also help us to tackle gender inequality, a key priority of mine, because too many women are in low-paid jobs. Another important step in breaking down gender barriers is ensuring that where there is discrimination, there is access to justice. So with the transfer of powers over employment tribunals, I can tell you today that an SNP government will abolish fees for employment tribunals, ensuring that employees have a fair opportunity to have their case heard. And while many local authorities, to their credit, have taken action to deliver equal pay, some continue to lag behind. A re-elected SNP government will look to apply penalties to any council that does not honour their obligation to deliver equal pay. Before I finish, I want to mention one further area where we will use our new powers. We've long argued with your support against the absurd position that sees public sector operators from other countries able to bid to run public rail services in Scotland, but our own public sector unable to do so. One of the recommendations of the Smith Commission was that Holyrood should have the power to change that. So our manifesto will make clear that a re-elected SNP government will use new powers to change the law to ensure that in future a Scottish public sector body can bid to run Scotland's railways in the future. I also want to recognise today the campaigners for CalMac who are looking so resplendent. Who are looking, may I say it, so resplendent in SNP colours in their T-shirts. But let me today give you a commitment, and a genuine commitment from me, and a personal commitment from me, that we will continue to work with you, with the trade unions, to protect our lifeline ferry services, because they are vital to the communities that they serve. I want to conclude today by saying what an immense privilege it has been to work not just over the past 16 months, but over the past 9 years with our trade union movement. You're a core part of our public life and a central part of Scottish democracy. I give you the commitment that if I am re-elected as First Minister in 2 weeks' time, if the SNP is re-elected to be the Government of Scotland, our door will always be wide open to the trade union movement, not just so that you can come through it, but so that you can come through it to work in partnership with us, so that together we can go on continuing to shape a better future for our country, for everybody who lives and works here. Thank you all very much indeed.
First Minister, can I, on behalf of Congress, thank you very much for giving up your time to address us today, and please accept this gift as a token of our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congress now call motion 55, the Rehabilitation Services in Scotland, to be moved by the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy Scotland.
Hi Congress, I'm Claire Craig from the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy, proposing motion 55. Congress, I want you to think back to a time when you or someone close to you had to go into hospital. Whether it was planned or unplanned, it's likely you had excellent immediate care from the medical and nursing team on hand to treat you effectively. But do you also remember the exceptional care you received after your initial treatment or surgery was over? Do you recall the range of health professionals who were on hand to help you recover from that immediate care episode? That period of aftercare is known as rehabilitation, and those allied health professionals are the experts in providing this skilled service. Rehabilitation is an absolutely essential part of healthcare following surgery, illness or injury. It aims to optimise function and well-being, and it works by helping people to get back to daily activities, to return to work and to live independently. Rehabilitation is delivered across primary and community care and is required across an enormous range of conditions, from cardiac and stroke rehab to recovery from trauma and surgery, fractures and falls and much, much more. Whatever the circumstances, people who need rehab need it to be individually tailored to meet their individual needs. And that is where we come in. Rehab is provided by different health professionals depending on the condition, but most notably by allied health professionals, or AHPs, who include physiotherapists, dietitians, podiatrists and radiographers, to name only a few of the professions termed AHPs. As the Scottish Government's AHP National Delivery Plan stated, allied health professionals are the only professions expert in rehab and enablement at the point of registration. Physiotherapy has a significant role to play in its success, and physiotherapists are experts at ensuring that each patient's rehab is adapted to treat them as an individual. Many party manifestos released prior to elections promise more nurses and doctors will be employed, but there's very little mention of employing more rehab staff, no pledges of more physios or dietitians or podiatrists. And when managers are told following these pledges that they must fund more nurses and doctors with no extra capital, one of the things they consider is cutting the posts of these other qualified professionals to fund them. Yet rehab has been proven to be both a clinically effective and cost-effective intervention. When you turn on your morning telly, you will often hear stories about A&E waiting times or surgical targets. But can you recall the last time you heard about how beneficial physio is after stroke? Or how community rehab by physios and other AHPs can lead to a shorter length of stay in hospital, improved mobility, increased activity levels and significantly improved quality of life. This Congress believes that the immediacy of emergency care, surgery and acute services means it gets a disproportionate share of media coverage and public attention. Quality rehab is equally important to health. Without it, you could have your leg amputated, but you never receive an artificial limb and you never learn how to walk again. Or you develop Parkinson's disease or dementia and you may not fulfil your potential or retain your skills. STUC, we need to widely share how important this care is, on television, by word of mouth and on social media. And the benefits of rehab are clear. Evidence shows that physio rehab very early after stroke and at high intensity leads to better outcomes and is cost effective. A minimum of 45 minutes of physio for 5 days a week is actually recommended. This is only one example. Many more can be found in the extensive physio works briefings from the CSP. But because they don't create headlines, these essential rehab services are often overlooked in service planning. This leads to services being cut, waiting lists lengthening, staff feeling undervalued and morale hitting rock bottom. When only the numbers of people admitted and discharged are counted as results, and services become stretched as a result, staff are pushed to discharge patients before they reach their potential, or to limit the number or types of treatments they are able to provide. Professional pride and integrity mean to continue to provide high-quality treatment, staff ends up working unpaid overtime. Rehab services require equal consideration, and those frontline staff and professional bodies of professions delivering rehab must be included in the planning and design of changes to healthcare to ensure seamless integrated provision. Congress, we ask all of you to support your healthcare colleagues and share the work of the CSP by lobbying your MPs and MSPs to promote quality rehab services in your localities and give Scottish rehab services the profile and credit they deserve. And this STUC, Congress resolves to build on the support by campaigning to improve public recognition and awareness of all healthcare workers' roles. It resolves to promote an inclusive agenda which ensures all health professions and services are represented in both national health and social care policy development and local service discussions. And it resolves to seek commitment from decision makers at all levels, including the government, to give rehab equal priority in health and social care. By doing this, we can ensure that the right professionals are in the right services, giving patients the highest quality of service at all stages of their healthcare journey. So what can you do? Well, yesterday I asked you to stand up and stretch, and thank you for those of you who did that. Today, I'm actually going to ask you to tweet. So get on your phones, on your laptops, and I want you to pledge support to your colleagues by tweeting, I'm #backing rehab at #STUC16. We can get this trending, and we can actually share our support for our colleagues by doing this today. Thanks very much.
Congress, if delegates are leaving the hall, would you please do so quietly and make sure you close the door behind you? Looking for a... Thank you. Looking for a seconder to the motion.
President Congress, Simon Fever, the British Dietetic Association, second in motion 55, Rehabilitation Services in Scotland. The integration of health and social care across Scotland is supported by all political parties and is currently being implemented right now. It's massively underfunded. When you bring together two organisations that are overspent, you'll end up with one larger organisation, more overspent, who will have to cut services. Because of government targets on waiting lists, waiting times and delayed discharges, these health and social care partnerships will need to prioritise some services over others. Often those that shout the loudest survive cuts, and those that aren't high profile enough suffer. Rehabilitation is not a sexy part of the service, but is vital if patients are to meet their full potential. Rehabilitation can be a long process, but requires the skills of expert therapists. So how can we make health and social care work for us all? Well, it shouldn't be a bun fight. It needs to recognise and respect all services that are provided and involve those staff in the development and redesign of services. Unfortunately, without enough money in the system, you'll never be able to make things better for an ageing population. Remember, it could be your rehab in the future. You have been warned. Support the motion.
Anne Dean, GMB Scotland, supporting motion 55. President Congress, there have been many things promised to the people of Scotland over the past 9 years, a better NHS being one of them. Comrades, I can honestly say that if there have been any improvements, I cannot see them, and certainly from the point of view of the mover of the previous motion, from my colleague in the Scottish Ambulance Service, they cannot see any improvements either. Comrades, there's no point in saving people's lives if you leave them struggling to regain the skills they need to get back to any semblance of what they would call their normal life. We currently have a wide range of physiotherapists, occupational therapists, dietitians and other specialists working in hospitals where people are taken for treatments to ensure they live that bit longer, however long that might be. But over the past 30 years, the length of hospital stays have been getting shorter and shorter. There is inevitably reduced the length of time that those rehabilitation specialists have to work with hospitalised people to get them back to a good enough fitness level. This means that the community resources are now having to cope with larger numbers of people coming home in debilitated conditions and too required to continue or even to commence their rehabilitation at home. But, and this will come as no surprise to you, comrades, We have not seen a comparable rise in the level of professionals to facilitate the progression of this vital work within people's own homes. So while bed numbers have reduced way below the actual needs of our communities, the numbers of patients in the communities have increased well beyond the capacity of the rehabilitation teams, trying very hard to cope with those diversifying populations requiring help. Just like every other public service, the community health and social care services have been redeployed, redesigned, rebranded, rebadged and re-whatevered till we hardly know what we will be called next. But one thing has never changed. The work that we do is still the same as the work we did 15 years ago. We just need to do it quicker and more often to cope with those numbers of people coming our way. But older people and those with disabilities require time to recover and adjust to their new lives following trauma, surgery or the onset and treatment of disease. There is little that can be done to hurry this process on. It is beyond necessary for the community services to be better staffed and equipped to do this vital work, and certainly if we felt we should be doing it that bit better or even sooner, because the best way to stop the revolving door at the hospital is to be able to get people earlier on in their journey to maintain them at home. That is where we should be concentrating our efforts on, in order to improve quality of life for older and disabled people. Please support this motion. It's crucial that you do. Thank you.
Mike Hendry, Society Radiographers, supporting motion 55. President, Congress. Holby City, casualty, the real A&E. The media love to see the cut and thrust of healthcare, but they leave real healthcare professionals to pick up the pieces, to look after stroke victims, cancer survivors and war veterans. We spend weeks and months bringing a real quality of life back to patients and their families. But this doesn't sit well in austerity healthcare. We need real commitment to put patients back at the heart of the agenda. Please support the motion.
President, Comrades, Pat Duffy, STU Disabled Workers Committee. And I've been in hospital a few times, and I love the National Health Service. But there's a sad lack of training in dealing with visually impaired people, especially among doctors and consultants. You know, they stand that far away from you, you think you're a disease, you know, instead of being blind or visually impaired. So there's a sad lack of training there. Even, the nurses are great, but again, they're not really taught or trained how to deal with visually impaired people. You know, and it's quite sad. Somebody spoke about the podiatrist. I used to get my toenails cut because, obviously, I mean, if I cut my toenails, I'd cut my toes off. It was as simple as that, you know. But they stopped it. They cut it. You know, and my wife, you think she was digging for coal when she's cutting your nails, you know. So obviously I've got to go and pay for a podiatrist. They tell me I've got, that's why I get DLA, I've got to pay, that's what I have to use it for. You know, and I see a diabetic nurse once a year, and God love them, they do a great job, you know. But that's the only thing I come up here to say is that, you know, anybody that's within the healthcare service, please try and find out what kind of training is done within the National Health. I sat outside an X-ray room one day, and I chapped the door, and I waited for ages, and then a lady came out, and she says to me, "Can you not read? There's a sign on the door that says we're away for our lunch." I'm sitting with a guide dog at my feet. So there is a sad lack of training.
Okay, Congress, we'll now move to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Motion 55 is carried. Congress, I'm now going to ask for you to adopt the General Council's report on fairness at work, Chapter 6, pages 42 through to 49. Agreed? Thank you. Ask you to adopt the General Council report on Government and Parliamentary Liaison, Chapter 7, pages 50 to 54. Agreed? Thank you. We'll now continue with the Public Services Motion, Section 5 of the agenda. I'd like to call Motion 56, Safeguarding the NHS Scotland Podiatry Roles within the Integration of Health and Social Care, to be moved by Society of Chiropodists and Podiatrists.
Thank you. President, Congress. Rachel Little from the Society of Chiropodists and Podiatrists presenting motion number 56, Safeguarding of the NHS Scotland Podiatry Roles within the Integration of Health and Social Care. This Congress will be aware of the Public Bodies Act 2014, which sets out the framework for integrating adult health and social care services based on the 9 national health and wellbeing outcomes, and the go-live date, which has just passed, of the 1st of April 2016 for the identified 31 integration authorities creating legal entities. Each of the integration authorities will be responsible for coordinating health and care services in line with their approved local strategic plans. Allied health professionals, including physiotherapists, occupational therapists, speech and language therapists, radiographers, dietitians, already work across the boundaries of health boards and local authorities. Podiatry, as one of the allied health professionals, does not have experience working across these boundaries and requires to be safeguarded in the new approach to delivering health and care services. Podiatry services will be specifically focusing on outcome 3 and 4 from the National Health and Wellbeing outcomes, which are people who use health and social care services have positive experiences of those services and have their dignity respected, and health and social care services are centred on helping to maintain or improve the quality of life of people who use those services. In 2013, 6% of the allied health professional staff in NHS posts within Scotland were podiatrists, with the number of podiatrists employed within NHS posts decreasing annually since 2009 in terms of whole-time equivalents due to financial constraints on budgets and posts not being replaced like for like due to financial efficiency savings targets. In some health boards, this has led to a decrease in whole-time equivalent podiatry posts of between 10 and 30%, leading to an increase in time between appointments. And as we've just heard, it's also changed the caseloads within those services. This decrease in podiatry posts affects the NHS Scotland podiatry services from achieving outcome 8 from the National Health and Wellbeing outcomes. People who work in health and social care services feel engaged with the work they do and are supported to continuously improve the information, support, care and treatment they provide. Although it is anticipated that the demand for podiatry services will increase due to the projected Scottish population increase of 5% and the projected increase in the number of people aged 65 and over increasing by almost 25%. The podiatry roles within NHS Scotland need to be safeguarded, especially with the expected annual savings of £12 million by using anticipatory care plans to reduce the need for people with conditions requiring unscheduled admissions to hospital. This Congress therefore calls on the General Council to safeguard NHS Scotland podiatry roles within the integration of health and social care by entering into dialogue with the Scottish Government to highlight the fragility of the NHS Scotland podiatry workforce and highlight the need for safeguarding the profession in terms of integration of health and social care, and to campaign to raise the awareness of the Scottish Government and partners in health and social care integration to the important role podiatrists, along with other AHP professions including physiotherapy, radiography, occupational therapy, speech and language therapists and dietitians play in delivering the newly coordinated health and social care services in order for each integrated authority to achieve their local strategic plan. I move. Thank you.
Thank you. Congress, do we have a seconder?
Good morning, Congress. Fiona McKellar from Chartered Society of Physiotherapy, seconding motion 56. Congress, as of the 1st of April this year, 31 health and social care integrated authorities, or joint integration boards, became live within Scotland. What this means for you and I within our communities is that we now have new public bodies that have delegated responsibility and resources for the commissioning of our services, our acute health and social care services and community. They will manage almost £8 billion of health and social care resources, not exactly small change. These boards must also have a strategic planning group to develop the framework around how these integrated services should look. The Scottish Government states that this is the biggest reform to the way health and social care services are delivered in Scotland. The agenda is supposed to ensure that individuals who use the services get the right care and support, whatever their needs, at any point in their care journey. In 2012, the AHP National Delivery Plan for Scotland asked leaders across health and social care services to utilise AHP expertise to the full as we work to deliver our shared national outcomes. All of this on the back of reduced fiscal funding for both the NHS and local authorities. Vacancy control, where it feels that every vacancy is an opportunity for remodelling and efficiency savings. This results in an environment where skills are potentially stripped out before tests of change have been proven and services are left short of clinical leadership, mentorship and succession planning. Podiatry posts have been lost within NHS Scotland over recent years, and the loss brings an increase in waiting times for patients. It has a direct impact on the outcomes of such long-term conditions as diabetes and an increase in falls, fractures and hospital admissions. Congress, I ask you, is this a prudent move when our nation is an ageing one? I know in our local region it's projected that our 85-year-olds will make up over 35% of our population by the year 2030, and that these individuals will have each 3 long-term conditions. So it stands to reason that the demand for healthcare professionals that directly impact on the health and well-being of the elderly will only increase. AHPs are experts in rehabilitation and are best placed to guide and deliver these core elements of care in a person-centred, safe, effective and affordable manner. We need to have the right people at the table working in partnership to inform these decision makers at these strategic boards. We need to ensure that podiatry and AHP workforce is safeguarded within these integrated joint boards to enable podiatrists and all AHP contribution to the health and well-being of our nation to be fully recognised in order for each authority to achieve its strategic plan. We need to make sure that AHPs become, as the National Delivery Plan states, we should be the agents of change. Congress, please support this motion and please back rehab. Thank you.
Thank you. Contribution.
Ross Baxter McGee, Society of Radiographers, supporting this motion. All too often in the NHS, when posts become vacant, they're not replaced like for like, and that ends up with us losing skilled healthcare staff. Podiatrists provide an essential service for so many patients that we cannot lose their expertise from the NHS. On a personal note, I attended my GP a number of years ago and was diagnosed with degeneration in the joints of my foot and was told that I couldn't get NHS podiatry because I wasn't 60 years old or over. I'm 28, so by the time I can actually get NHS podiatry, my feet might have bloody fallen off. Instead of cutting people, skilled healthcare providers on the floor, perhaps we should cast an eye to the astronomical pay of the chief executives of NHS boards. We can't lose these skilled experts from the NHS, and we must have them providing care free at the point of delivery. Please support the motion.
Shirley Johnston, United Union, speaking in support of the motion. I do work for the health service, but I'm not here in that capacity and saying what I'm going to say. I suddenly found myself a user of the services, and particularly the podiatry services. And I got referred and I was told there was a 12-week waiting list. I was given an appointment that's just within that 12-week waiting list, and it came with a big label that says, if you can't attend, let us know, because if you don't attend, it wastes everybody's time. And if you don't attend, you won't get another appointment. That tells me, as somebody that works in the service, that there's a shortage of podiatrists, chiropodists, whatever they're calling themselves these days, but the service as a whole, that the service is under pressure to deliver, and that we're not replacing the people that are very important for service delivery. So I would support the motion. Thank you.
Congress will move to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Motion 56 is carried. We're now going to move to emergency motion number 1. To be moved by the RMT. In the hall. Come on then.
Just arriving.
Train's late again.
Sorry about that, President. Got an urgent phone call from Nicola, congratulating me in wearing Watford colours. I'm proud to wear yellow, by the way, because I've been a Watford supporter for many, many years, and we wear yellow every Saturday. 20,000 supporters, week in, week out. Right, Mick Cash, RMT General Secretary, moving Emergency Resolution 1. Sisters and brothers, we've just heard the First Minister talk about how she values public services, how she values trade unions and wants to work with us. And Congress, it's true, she does want to work with us. She wants to reassure us. And Congress, we welcome that. We welcomed that last year when Nicola personally told some members of our delegation that they need not worry about CalMac. She told them that the Scottish Government weren't going to privatise CalMac. And that's great. But, and there's always a but, later on during the dispute, it was reported that the government was saying, and I quote, "Regardless of the ownership status of the successful bidder, these ferry services aren't being privatised. What is being tendered is a public service contract to operate lifeline services on behalf of Scottish ministers." So according to the Scottish Government, if CalMac, a public company owned by the Scottish Government, is being replaced by a corporate giant like Serco, it's not privatisation. If CalMac, who puts all its revenue back into our ferry services, is replaced by Serco, which pays out big dividends to its shareholders, it's not privatisation. If our members, who have worked all their life for CalMac, are then forcibly transferred to Serco, it's not privatisation. Brothers and sisters, CalMac workers haven't been fooled. They know they've had to fight and campaign to defend their jobs and their communities, just as they've had to campaign before against Labour. And that's why they won a massive mandate for industrial action. And that's why they had massive public support for the industrial action. Congress, on behalf of the RMT, I thank the swift, solid support we received from many trade unions in that dispute. I'd like to pay tribute to the superb work of our regional organiser, Gordon Martin, and George and Brian, and all our port committee and our members for the campaign they are running. But Congress, let's not kid ourselves. The Scottish Government are quite capable of privatising CalMac and giving the contract to Serco, because they have form. They have already given the Northern Isles contract to Serco. They've broken up ScotRail and given the sleeper contract to Serco. And now we know there won't be an announcement whether Serco won the Clyde and Hebrides contract until the end of May 2016, a few weeks after the elections. It does make you a bit suspicious. But also we now know that that announcement is going to be due before we announce the winner of the contract bang in the middle of the European referendum. That's right, the same European Union which the Scottish Government say are forcing them to put CalMac out to tender. Well, Congress, let's be clear. It's quite clear. If Serco take over our ferries, it will be the Scottish Government who have pulled the trigger on CalMac. But Congress also, let's be clear, that it will be the European Union who provided the gun. And don't be in any doubt, we will make sure everybody knows who all the culprits are. But Congress, it doesn't have to be like this. We thought we'd help out the Scottish Government by commissioning a report by Glasgow University. It's an independent report and it says CalMac should get the contract. It's not just academics who are saying we should keep CalMac public. It's the workers who provide the service. It's the communities who rely on the service. And all the polls say we should keep CalMac public. Now, I was going to ask Nicola, if she'd been up there, the same question that our delegates asked last year. I was going to ask, straight question, do you agree with the Scottish people that CalMac should continue to operate Clyde and Hebrides ferries? Because we got a response earlier on which says she supports what's going on, but I'm not certain whether we'll get a yes or no to that. But what I do know is this: we think CalMac should be kept in public. Congress, we don't care if it's privatisation by Labour or privatisation by the SNP. Whoever it is, we will fight it, we will stop it, and we'll keep CalMac public. I move.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
President, sisters, brothers, Manuel Cortes, Transport Salaried Staffs Association, proud to be here seconding the motion from our sister union, the RMT, and proud that we stood shoulder to shoulder last year to fight attempts to privatise CalMac. You know, I know John Sweeney hasn't been getting much accolades today. I heard the debate on public services earlier on, and I'm going to continue on the similar vein. It's not just because he looks like a Tory banker, which he does. From austerity to privatisation, he's a dyed-in-the-wool neoliberal. And this is where the problem lies. I listened very carefully to what the First Minister said. Very, very carefully. And she said that she would continue to support Lifeline services. I mean, it will be a kamikaze act for any First Minister of Scotland to say that they would not support remote communities and their ability to travel. What she didn't say is what we wanted to hear. Everybody in this hall wanted to hear that we will continue to run CalMac in the public sector, in the interest of the communities it serves, and not in the interest of shareholders. Because I tell you what, for the last 3.5 decades, the rich, the filthy rich, the 1% at the top of our society had a Christmas each and every day. The rest of us have had to cope with growing inequality, with austerity, with cuts, with privatisation. So when we argue for better public services, we are not just arguing for the sake of our members. We are arguing for a better world. A world in which ordinary people have access and the right to live in comfort. A world where it's not all about profit, but it's about looking after each other. That's why I'm a socialist. That's the world I believe in. And unfortunately, that is not what's being delivered in Scotland or the UK. And that's why, and I'm going to finish on this, I want to hope that each and every one in this hall is going to pledge that if the current government privatises CalMac, we will not rest. We will not rest until it's back to where it belongs, in public ownership. Thank you.
Congress will now go to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Emergency motion 1 is carried. Thank you. Congress, I would now like to introduce Davin Hurtado and Gustavo Renifigo. I apologise right now for the pronunciation. Gustavo is a trade union activist from Cacao in southwest Colombia. He is a member of the Agricultural Workers Union Fensurigo and the Patriotic March, a coalition of over 2,000 organisations campaigning for peace and social justice. In May 2015, paramilitaries kidnapped Gustavo and tortured and threatened him, accusing him of being a member of the FARC. They pressurised him to work as an informant and threatened to murder his family if he refused. Since then, he has been in hiding. Davin is a leading human rights activist and head of the Southwest Colombia Human Rights Network, which is part of the Patriotic March. He was gravely wounded with a grenade during the violent police and army repression of the mass strike in 2013, the largest industrial action seen in Colombia for decades. Colleagues, you are most welcome.
Muy buenas tardes. Primero que todo, muchas gracias a todos, a Unison, a Dundee, a STUC y a todos los sindicatos que nos apoyan en esta causa. Mi nombre es Gustavo Rengifo.
Good afternoon. Thank you to everybody here. Thanks to Unite, to Unison, to the STUC, to all the trade unions present today. My name is Gustavo Rengifo.
Vengo del departamento del Cauca, pertenezco a la organización Fensuagro, soy líder en nuestra comunidad, ayudo a todos los campesinos por defender nuestros derechos de nuestras tierras.
I'm from a region in Colombia called Cauca. I'm a member of the Agricultural Workers Trade Union called Fensuagro. I'm a community leader. I work to defend the rights of the peasant farmers, their human rights and their rights to their land.
Por esta razón y por este motivo, miembros de los paramilitares y SIGIN me secuestran, donde 6 hombres armados me llevan, me torturan, me pegan y me dejan botado en un cañal.
For that reason, 6 men, paramilitaries and people connected to the police force kidnapped me. They took me, they tortured me, they hit me, and they left me thrown by a riverbank.
Que si sigo trabajando con los campesinos y con la organización, matan a mi familia, me matan a mí. En estos momentos me encuentro en las montañas de Colombia, privado de la libertad, con mi familia. Ya llevo 13 meses donde no tengo ninguna protección del gobierno colombiano.
They said that if I carried on with my trade union and political work, they would kill me, they'd kill my family. I'm now in hiding in the mountains and jungles of Colombia, separated from my family. I've been there for 13 months now without any form of protection from the Colombian state.
Les pedimos el favor a ustedes como sindicatos que nos apoyen en la protección para todos los campesinos en nuestra tierra colombiana y a toda mi familia, mucha protección, mucho apoyo, presionar al gobierno colombiano.
I ask you, as a trade union movement, to help put pressure on governments here in Colombia to protect me, to protect the peasants in Colombia and my family.
Estamos nosotros los campesinos socializando a todos sobre el proceso de la paz. Estamos muy contentos por un lado porque se está negociando lo de la paz, pero por el otro lado nos encontramos muy muy asustados y preocupados en la zona porque hay grupos paramilitares que están matándonos a todos los sindicalistas y desplazándonos. Por esta razón les pedimos protección. Muchas gracias por todo lo que nos han brindado acá. Muchas gracias.
The peace process is taking place in Colombia and we're very happy about that. But on the ground, we're very frightened, we're very worried because paramilitary groups continue to kill the peasants, continue to displace the peasants. Thank you very much for your support. Thanks a lot.
Good morning, Congress. Mi nombre es David Hurtado, hago parte de la Red de Derechos Humanos del suroccidente colombiano Francisco Isaías Cifuentes, que toma el nombre de un líder que fue asesinado por los paramilitares.
Good morning, my name is David Hurtado. I'm from the Human Rights Network of Southwest Colombia, Francisco Cifuentes, that takes the name of a trade unionist who was murdered by paramilitaries.
La situación que vive Colombia en este momento es bastante complicada. La represión que el Estado hace por la protesta social es bastante compleja. Ahí pues está el ejemplo de mi caso, donde fui herido por miembros del Estado en 3 lugares bastante complicados de mi cuerpo. Y es bastante difícil todo lo que el Estado hace en contra de la protesta social de todos los líderes campesinos y de todos los líderes sociales.
We're currently in a very complicated situation in Colombia. The repression against protests by the state is continuous. My personal case, I was injured by the Colombian state. I had 3 serious injuries in different parts of my body. It's a very complicated situation. The state continues to repress trade union leaders, civil society leaders.
La situación, por ejemplo, de los asesinatos que el informe de Justice for Colombia hace de los 534 homicidios de, por ejemplo, la organización Marcha Patriótica, que es muy joven, apenas lleva 4 años, ya tiene 117 muertos, y esto muestra pues lo que vienen haciendo en contra de todos los líderes sociales y todos los sindicalistas en Colombia.
The murders continue in Colombia. A report that Justice for Colombia just produced documented 534 murders in 5 years of activists. The organisation to which I belong, the Patriotic March, is just a young organisation, just existed for a few years. We've already documented 117 murders, and this is the strategy, and this is what's happening against social leaders in Colombia.
Por eso, y la situación, diré, de que la institucionalidad colombiana no quiere ni investigar estos casos y no quiere hacer visible el problema paramilitar que están viviendo. Anteayer mataron y decapitaron a una campesina en una zona muy cerca donde él vive. Hoy, anoche asesinaron otro. Ya en este mes van más de 10 asesinatos y la institucionalidad solo dice que son problemas de otra índole para no reconocer el fenómeno paramilitar que está viviendo Colombia.
The Colombian state institutions don't investigate properly these crimes. They don't accept the paramilitary presence in Colombia. The day before yesterday, a peasant was killed in the region where Gustavo lives, very close to where he lives. Today there was another murder reported. This month there has already been 10 killings in that area, and the state doesn't want to investigate. It says that these people are being killed for other reasons, non-political reasons, because they don't want to recognize the paramilitary problem in Colombia.
Por eso es muy importante que ustedes nos colaboren con el tema de la visibilización, con estas campañas que hace Justice for Colombia de llevar sindicalistas para que escuchen los casos reales allá en zonas, y que desde acá hagan la presión al Estado colombiano, porque para él es muy importante lo que internacionalmente se dice de él y no pone tanto caso a lo que nosotros decimos de lo que está pasando en Colombia. Muchísimas gracias y pues esperamos poder tener más espacios como este donde podamos difundir lo que está pasando en Colombia.
That's why it's so important, your support in visibilizing and making visible this situation in Colombia. For example, taking part in delegations with Justice for Colombia, where people go to Colombia. The pressure here if you can continue as well the pressure here through your government onto the Colombian government, because the Colombian government feels the international pressure much more. They listen to international voices more than they listen to ours. So thank you so much, and I hope that we can continue to have more spaces like this to continue developing this relationship. Thank you.
David, Gustavo, can I, on behalf of the General Council and Congress, thank you very much for that address. I think it brings us back to some sense of reality of the experiences and difficulties that you are facing. We wish you well in your endeavours and good luck for the future. And on behalf of the General Council and Congress, can I give you this small token of our appreciation? Thank you. Congress, that now concludes the morning session. Just a couple of announcements before you leave. There will be a bucket collection on the way out for Justice for Colombia, so please give generously. As usual, there are a number of fringe meetings taking place during lunchtime. You'll get information on them on pages 21 and 22. And can you please be back for 2 p.m. prompt for the afternoon session when we begin the Unions into School Awards. Thank you very much.